Hi, Don. How are you?
Very well. And Lori,
Great.
I see you as well. Welcome from Man, you guys are not getting much snow in Park City, are you?
Nothing. They are making more snow than that's falling.
Oh, I
It's
feel
really
bad
been a
for
challenge.
you. The best snow on earth, but it needs to actually show up, right?
Not this year.
Yeah, right.
It's all good though because I can don't have to fight the snow to get into properties.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Uh, Courtney, my favorite. Welcome.
Hi, Dawn. Good to see you.
You too.
Hmm.
Hey, Jim, I saw you were here a few minutes early. Where are you from?
New York, actually, upstate New York. So
We don't let people from New York in. I'm sorry.
not the city. We're up by the Adirondacks. It's nice.
Very cool. It's always fun when I talk to people from upstate New York because you have this image of New York being Manhattan and
Right.
everything. But I've actually spent a little bit of time in upstate New York. It's quite pretty.
Yeah. We're only about an hour from Lake Placid. So right now, Olympics are the focus of things. So Lake Placid.
Yeah. I was watching the figure skating with my family last night. Wow, that is impressive. My goodness. The pressure that those guys are under when they do that to make just the slightest little mistake, it's like the composure that they have is just insane. And this guy's doing did you watch what's his Iliad? That's the quad god. Have you heard of this guy?
Yeah. Yeah. We actually watched them do some of us. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It is
pretty
amazing.
cool. All right, you guys. Well, to be respectful, especially to Jim, because I think he was actually here early, we'll get underway. I think I have a rather exciting message for you guys, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you the in EXP, which I've now been 17 years, 17. I've been 7 years in EXP, and it has been such a wonderful opportunity. And maybe the first business that I've been a part of where when they made changes, they always made them in favor of the agent. And I've just usually when you join a company, uh, there's a honeymoon period, and then the skeletons in the closet start to come out. And our skeletons have all been good. They got meat and bones on them. And so I've just been super pleased. Uh, Part of this message is going to address an opportunity for co-sponsorship. By a raise of hands, has anybody done co-sponsorship? Courtney, I think you have, haven't you? Lori, Craig, you guys, Jim? Okay. All right. I'm talking to the 1% Club here. You guys are doing it. That's awesome. Now, what I have done with this particular presentation is it's designed to address an individual that I want to recruit icon level producers, right? And so I wanted to have a vehicle with which to do that. And so what you're going to see today is a way for an icon level producer to transform their business from a real estate practice into a scalable and sellable business and provide them a structure, system, and process where they could acquire a book of business, which could also be attracting an icon level producer into their EXP organization. And I believe you'll see that this system does that rather nicely. So Rob, I think you've got the recording going, so I can roll, huh?
We are good to go.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Don Yoakum, and I'm going to share with you a way that you can take advantage of the timing in the market and the elements at play right now. And I'll start by just giving you a few statistics that some of you may or may not be aware of, which is that at this time, roughly 25% of the agents in the US are 65 or over. And you can guess, if they're 65 selling real estate, what they probably have on their mind, which is they're looking for an exit, right? That historically has not been an easy thing to do, selling your book of business. And so I'm going to talk about how one could do that. But what I want you to think about in this case is, how am I going to position myself and my business for the next 5 years? And so one is to get to the level you want to get, to scale your business, and then transform it from a real estate practice to a real estate business. In that process, have a system where you could acquire books of business if, in fact, some people want to sell their practice, and use that as a recruiting attraction event in the process. And then ultimately, we're being told by the AI gods that half of us are going to be gone in 5 years. And by the way, I think they're right. I think we're going to have, for all practical purposes, half of the real estate agents in the marketplace that we have today. Now, some of you have probably heard other things like 71% of the agents did not sell a property last year. So if we lose any of those 71%, it will be of little or no consequence, right? But my point is that there are going to be a lot of folks that go, and I think the folks that are able to stick are going to leverage themselves with the tools that are available. Like Courtney is in my organization, and she's been having too much fun with AI of late. And by the way, my son, following in your footsteps, Courtney, he was making more updates on his lovable site last night. So thank you for that inspiration. And so she is clearly one of those agents that is using these tools to ensure she stays at the forefront of our industry, right? And perhaps even inspire other people to join her. But the main thing I wanted you guys to get from this slide is the timing is right, or really ripe, to be able to acquire books of business, and like never before. All right, so let me click through here, and I'm sure this is going to go. There we go. So if one was to decide to prepare their business for sale, or if they wanted to analyze a real estate practice that they were going to buy, the first thing is to get the database sorted. I have found that an ideal number for a residential agent is somewhere between 300 and 500 clients. And we have a tool at Pro Insight, my tech company, that will enable you to run a diagnostic on those people and let you know the entire portfolio that they have. So in other words, not just the single family home that you sold, if they have any rentals, regardless of where those are in the country, as long as they're public record and under their name, we can get that information to you. And it makes the utilization and productivity of a database and your ability to serve much greater. Also, whenever you are running a business, and you guys, whether you want to sell your practice or not, you should all be tracking the source of every sale. And that is what I'm describing here. And next is, we want to know our assets under management, our transfer rate, and our capture rate. And since May 2022, there has been a rather dramatic decline in the transfer rate of real estate, where people were moving every 7 to 10 years. Now they're moving more like every 15 to 20 years. And so that's not as good for us because we get paid on transfers, but it's not so bad as long as you understand how to get more assets under management at scale, which I'm going to show you how to do. When you're going through your database, just kind of a final filtering process is, separating the out of area clients. That's not to say you're going to get rid of the clients in your database that have moved out of the area, but you want to know which ones are which, and you want to know of the ones that moved, how many of those have still property in your market, right? So like Courtney is in Mariposa, Yosemite area. She might have somebody that owns an Airbnb there and lives in Florida now. That would certainly be somebody you'd want to keep in your database. Whereas if she sells somebody's home and they leave, maybe not. I still have found situations where those people can be valuable if they're super connectors. You might want to maintain that relationship, or they just might be a friend and you want to maintain it regardless. I've got friends all over the world enabled by WhatsApp. Okay, so anyway, this is my suggestion, though, to separate that. And an easy way to keep in touch with a big database is through a newsletter, and particularly one that's designed to update them on your market. And so if one is going to transform their real estate practice into a business, and you want to partner with other people, either that you're going to acquire books of business and use that as a recruiting strategy, or you want to sell your book of business. I'm not going to go into the details of this positioning matrix. It is a 1-hour training all by itself. But the message I want to leave with you is that it is imperative that whoever you buy the book of business from or you sell to operates in the same position in the marketplace in terms of a price level and the service orientation. And when I say service orientation, if they're transactional, process oriented, or they're relational, service oriented. I have found, by the way, even though we're not going to do this training, is that the people that are slightly above the mid-level in price and slightly towards a relational service orientation are usually the very best agents, and that's the books of business you want to buy. In terms of valuing a book of business, there's a number of different ways that you can do that. And just to give you guys a little bit of history on how this has gone down in the real estate industry, back in the day, 70s, 80s, even into the early 90s, people would just quietly quit the business. They would cancel their MLS. And when they got called by a client, they would simply just reach out to a friend and say, hey, I've got a client that called me that wants to sell their home. Do you want to do this and pay me a 25% referral fee? So that was basically the method of how people sold their practices. And with that system, they got little to nothing. They got referral fees on a few transactions per year. It was really inconsequential. Then Nick Crowder, to his credit, came along and said, hey, these CRMs have created an asset. And that client base, properly maintained, becomes rather valuable. And he created a system whereby you take over a book of business and you pay referral fees on that client base, that data set. And he had recommended 30% in year 1, 25 in year 2, 20 in year 3, 15 in year 4. And that was it. Now, that worked better. But I'm here to tell you, still not very well. And the reason why is because the buyer had no skin in the game. And they didn't follow up on the seller's database. They didn't call them like they should. I'm making some generalities here because some did go well. But generally speaking, it was an improvement upon getting a referral here and there to getting a regular stream of referrals, but nothing like owning that practice and running it yourself. They maybe were getting 10 to 20, 25% of what they previously had gotten. And most people are not in a financial position to go from $250,000 to 62.5 in 1 year. Therefore, they haven't sold their practice. Okay. What we want to do is show them how they can do this and not have that precipitous decline. And so if you're curious on how one would value, by the way, Nicole Richards, I just saw you come in. Welcome. And how to value a book of business. let's say that somebody is at 300,000 gross commission income. That's on an annualized basis. What I have done when I've helped people value books of business is I've reversed out the money that they spend in ads, like let's say on Zillow. I've also reversed out the revenue that was generated as a result of prospecting to achieve a net value. So in this case, I'm suggesting that this book of business that started with 300,000 gross commission income could be properly valued at 240,000. Now, there are plenty of other factors that could play into this to make that number go up or down. For example, how geographically tight is that business? If it's spread over the entire state of California, not so interesting. If all that business was in Mariposa, I'm sure Courtney would want to buy that book of business, right? So geography matters, concentration matters. And when I say concentration, it could be a geographic concentration, it could be a property type concentration, it could be a demographic concentration. Sometimes I've seen people serve veterans or teachers or doctors, things like that. So the more niched the business is, and the clearer the connection is, how do I get more of those type of people? If that path is really clear and simple, and they can show you how they do that in a scalable way, then of course that's more valuable. In regards to acquiring a book of business, now this is where the attraction kind of converges with acquisition. I have found that the most successful acquisitions that have happened to date in real estate is when the selling party joins the team of the buying party. And I'm thinking of one in Wilsonville, Oregon, actually here that went for 7 figures. And that worked, but it took 7 years to make that work. First, this agent, who was a nephew of the folks that were retiring, he came in and worked as an apprentice. He earned his stripes. He ended up becoming a good producer. He learned the systems. He took it off, and then they paid it out. Now, in order to make a acquisition work when you're bringing someone in as a team, like, so let's say that you're wanting to buy a book of business, you know, you're going to say, and as is the case in California, most Californians probably, as lovely as Courtney is, I'm sure your clients know probably 5, 6, or 10 other realtors. Is that a fair statement? Yeah. Okay. So if Courtney tomorrow announces her retirement, and then she says, hey, and I sold my business to Dawn, they're not necessarily coming to me to serve their needs. They're going to go to relationship number 2 that they had because they like that person almost as much as Courtney. And they don't know me from Adam. Okay. But if Courtney comes in and joins my team, and we present a united front to her clients, and we work together for a couple of years, now all of a sudden I can make that work. I can win those relationships, and I have an opportunity to show them that the new improved Courtney and Dawn model is better than just the Courtney model. At least I'm going to do my best to make that evident to them. And I'm suggesting to you, it takes about 2 years to make that happen, even with the structure I'm going to show you here. And in those 2 years, ideally, you would have 4 events per year, once a quarter. And I have found that it's best usually to have 2 client appreciation events and 2 educational, 1 a quarter. And one of the educational could be over Zoom, so you could pick up those out-of-area clients conveniently on Zoom. Like that. So ProInsight, how does that come into play here? ProInsight is a platform that has found a way to basically enable all of the home service professionals, not just the realtor or the lender, but all the home service professionals to scale through the trusted influence of all the relationships, right? So, for example, what happens is an individual agent, in this case, Amy Stockberger, she has a tremendous database. And by the way, ranked number 33 in the nation last year by Real Trends. And yet, what we want is, and by the way, and Amy has been doing what you're seeing here. And what you're looking at right now is a sticker that gets placed in the garage of her clients, ideally next to the garage door opener. And it keeps her top of mind. It also, that QR code will point towards 100 different vendors. So in other words, she provides this complete real estate service, which is beautiful. And she definitely provides lifetime home support to all of her clients. She gets a lot of referrals because of that. Her professional, her business that she can attribute to her professional partners last year was slightly over 800,000 GCI, to give you an idea of how successful she's been with this strategy. Now, that being said, we plussed it, and I'm going to show you how we did that. So you take the real estate agent like Amy, and you point that QR code towards all the other vendors. Amy has done this very successfully, I might add. But what we did is we took the next step and we gave all of the vendors the same opportunity. In other words, and you guys have probably seen this, you've seen stickers from the HVAC company on the HVAC unit, garage door companies will lots of times put stickers in homes. Sprinkler companies will typically put it in the box. Pest companies, when they spray, they'll put when they last sprayed. But it's all back just to them. And they do that because they want to stay top of mind to the client. But what our system is doing is saying, hey, this roofer can now be a complete real estate resource and make available to their clients literally 62 different professional types that they would then in turn make available to the consumer. Cost to the consumer is zero, right? So super valuable to them. But what this does, this part of the strategy is it made now that real estate agent visible in 15,000 homes in a community, assuming that each of the professionals do 500. By the way, Amy's roofer, who I've personally interviewed, his name's Tripp, he does 1,000 roofs in Sioux Falls every year. So he's got bigger database than 500. All right. So the next part that I wanted to just illustrate for you as well is that another utilization of this sticker is combining the two parties, the buyer and seller. In this case, I've got the roofer and Amy working together. But what you could do, and what, like, let's say that Courtney is selling her business to me, we could send a sticker to her customers that featured both her and me, right? Because the relationship is with her and now she's joined me. So that would be a way to ensure that you're going to get more business out of it. This next slide, though, and by the way, you guys, I'm hoping you're going to form some questions so we can have a Q&A once I get through this in a couple minutes. But I want you to think of this as a neighborhood. Let's call it Golden, Colorado. And when a realtor has a database, I want you to imagine that they have a customer footprint in a town. And I've attempted to illustrate that here with these pins. So wherever you see that realtor pin drop on top of the house, I want you to imagine that that is a customer of this realtor. Now, that's nice. That's their database, and that's how we've all worked, right? And where this gets interesting is as you add to it and then add other categories, like I've just illustrated an insurance agent. that has been added to the equation. Now, I don't know about you guys, but in all the years in my business, I have referred and caused to be referred a lot of insurance agents, and it's very rare that they reciprocate. With this system, they can, right? So, for example, we've got an insurance agent that works with our Lake Oswego group, Joelle Lewis, who also an EXP agent, top producer, been in the business 38 years. Her insurance agent has 1,400 customers that she services every year. These are residential homeowners, literally 3 times the database of Joelle. And when that insurance agent puts those stickers in her clients' homes, at least the ones that are unattached to other active referral relationships will be pointed towards Joelle. Now, you guys should be seeing a realtor book pen now. And what that is designed to represent is a realtor's book of business that you have acquired. Now, what I want you to notice is that there's not so much difference between adding an insurance agent and buying a realtor's book of business. And there's especially not much difference when you add 50 professionals in this manner. So now I'm suggesting the insurance agents added some, and we added a third professional, which is the plumber. But now we're starting to get a density. And initially, when this realtor began this journey, they probably had less than 1% market share in Golden. That was their customer footprint, right? Now, mind you, they didn't just do business in Golden. They probably did some in Evergreen and Denver and surrounding areas, okay? But what we're trying to do is make it so that they become number one in Golden and concentrating their business, add a couple transactions a month. And one of the strategies of doing that, well, if you want to become number one of the best ways to do it would be to buy out one of the people that are in the top 10 now, that's 65 or over. Okay, so that's what we're illustrating here. And I mentioned earlier that the Golden Handoff created a system that was much better than the legacy system of I'll just quietly retire. I'll actually get a referral agreement for 4 years. I still have found that's not enough to really make it work for most people. And so as I have represented people to do this, what I have suggested is that the buyer pay off the warm book referrals, usually 25% of the sellers, and their warm GCI. Okay, so which, if it's warm GCI, the definition of that is I did not pay for that lead. And so now what we did, instead of that realtor going from 250 to 62.5, which is 25% of 250, if I was doing 250 and I'm paying off 25% of my warm GCI as well, now that retiring realtor's getting $125,000. In addition to that, I suggest in the 2-year transition period, you allow the seller to sell to a handful of friends and family, even as much as their top 20 personal, okay? Because you don't want them going broke. And what you want that transition from them, like imagine that they were making 250, they're now getting 125,000 in referrals from you, from their and your warm book of business. And then they just did 100,000 in commissions, which in most markets is less than 10 transactions of their own. Well, now they're making 225,000, but they went from working 60 hours a week to working 6. They like that. And their income only went from 250 to now, let's call it 225. They can deal with that. Okay. That being said, because you've bought their book of business, if you allow them to sell, they're now competing against you in your market. So we want them to pay 20% or 25, whatever you guys mutually agree upon. And so then it does not create heartburn for you. And if they stay around for several years, they're going to actually pay you back the money that you're paying for their book of business, which is kind of ironic, depending on how far along that went. But anyway, that's a way to make it feasible for someone to exit, because I'm going to suggest to you that the percentage of 65-year-olds today that are making 250,000 or more, if they were given an opportunity to now go from whatever 40, 30, 40, 60 hours a week to 3, 4, 6 hours a week and have their income only decline by 10, 20%, I'm telling you, 80% of those folks are interested. Okay. And by the way, if somebody is an icon level producer, that's the book that you just bought. Remember, I created all of this because I wanted to recruit icon level producers. Then what's happened here is you've created a way to attract an icon level producer into your front line and to become number one in your market. So that's the thought process. I'm not going to get in the weeds on this, but whenever there is a buy or sell, you want to be able to give a clear picture. And of course, every scenario is going to be different, but because it's negotiable and everyone's going to be at different volumes. You want to show what it's going to look like for the buyer if you use a broker to help orchestrate the sale. You need to know how that compensation is going to be and paid out. And then also, of course, the seller wants to know what it's going to look like for them. And so you present a case like that. Okay. So that is the conclusion of my PowerPoint. And what I want to do now is I want to have a bit of engagement with you guys. And I want you to view this through the lens of anybody can be in a position to acquire and attract icon level producers. I've just shown you a system and process to do that. Now, you might be saying, wow, that seemed like a lot. I don't know if I could do that. Well, today, if you decided, because of the elegance, or I should say the brilliance of our co-sponsorship model in EXP, is you could bring me in on the deal. This month, I'm doing 3 co-sponsorships where I'm supporting another EXP person in attracting top producers. And in fact, last month we brought on a team of 6. So it's worked really well. There's no need for you to have me be the co-sponsor if it's an icon in an area where they have an office. Like I see Clark Broom came on. Good to see you, Clark.
Good to see you.
Clark has access, thanks to Brent Gove, to this quite amazing office, maybe the nicest real estate office I've ever been in, and I've been in a few in my day. But if your icon that you're targeting is in Roseville, why not have Clark be the co-sponsor, right? And I don't know how much Clark wants to personally sell, so he may partner up the acquirer to be one of his agents, right? Because I don't know if Clark, you don't want to add another $250,000 in real estate commissions per year, do you? You want to add $250,000 in recurring income, don't you?
Yeah, I like to focus my efforts on passive income.
Yeah.
If I may make a comment, Don is probably one of the best people I've ever met in the real estate industry, and probably the best person to co-sponsor, especially if you're working with teams or talking to a real estate office. I don't know if you know Don's background. I mean, he had ownership in over 30 Keller Williams franchises, built 10 from the ground up, and had the most productive productive office in all of KW. And I think he partnered with Gene Fredericks on that one too. So, I mean,
Gene and I partnered on Palo Alto and Cupertino.
yeah, those were good offices. Yeah.
They were, yeah.
And
Roseville was with Wayne Hall.
yeah, I've never met anybody who's so knowledgeable and is willing to really, pour into other people and help other people. That's what I really like about Don. He's helped me in many situations and couldn't be a better person to co-sponsor with.
Well, back at you, Clark. I mean, you were late for the meeting, but I forgive you with all of that edification. Man,
Yeah.
I love you,
Well,
buddy.
I'm sorry, I was on a Zoom model explained, who's actually getting started in Southern California and co-sponsoring with Alvin Wang down there and right there in Irvine, who's amazing, does 200 million a year. So,
Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations.
well, thank you.
And you can always, if you want to catch the first part, you can just listen to the recording.
I
I'm
will.
just
I will
giving you a
definitely.
bad time,
I
but-
always do. Yeah, appreciate that.
Thank you. But the point is, you guys, this is one strategy for you to be able to attract icon level producers and have that be a benefit to your personal business. It can also be, like in my case or in Clark's case, we're not production focused. And so what I would look to do is I would look to team them up with someone in my organization as the acquirer. That doesn't mean I still can't be the co-sponsor, right? So so that is another strategy. What each of you guys should be thinking is, not only do you have 83,000 people, or 85 maybe now, from which you could align and co-sponsor with, I want to encourage you guys to develop your own niche. Michael, I see your hand up, so I'm going to call on you here momentarily. And my point is, if there is somebody that wants to buy or sell a book of business, if it's a Keller Williams team leader, because I was one of those, or if it's an independent broker, I'm probably a pretty good choice as a co-sponsor. Okay. But if it's an icon level agent in Roseville and they want to have an office, I'd say Clark is your guy. Okay. Or my other buddy down there, Tom Daves. But my point is that everybody has something. You have something about who you are, what you do, or what you have. Do you have an office they can work out of? Do you have unique knowledge in some area? And then let people know, right? I asked Brent for permission to share with you guys today because I wanted you guys to know that if you want to attract icons and you want me to be your co-sponsor, I'm applying for that job. Okay. And this is one of the ways that we could do it. Michael, let's have your question. Go ahead.
Well, I think some of the stuff I'm walking around. Sorry, I'm on my phone. I'm waiting for my daughter to finish tennis. But so I think some of the stuff you had is brilliant. I got cut off for a little bit, so I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. But when you brought up that QR code, that was amazing, because I have a group that we just started, a networking group that has the members of all these people in it, and I want to use that. That is brilliant, and I want to learn more about that. The second thing is, I'm more into the passive area of this thing as well as doing production, although I do some.
Sure.
I'm interested in both. And so if you could elaborate, so are you saying that I could go and talk to my people? I'm from Rochester, New York originally. Now I live in Sarasota, Florida. If I contact my other contacts up in Rochester, New York, for example, and they have potentially, some of them are getting toward the age where they want to retire and get done and potentially sell these practices. That is an option too, where we would get together. Let's say they were interested. They wanted to sell the brokerage. We would get together with people on this call, potentially, and others to, because I do syndications as well, or raise money to buy real estate, but I can do that for business, right? As well, right? So we would
100%. Yeah.
we would pull the people together and buy the business. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, and by the way, real estate practices typically have not up till now required a down payment. even just paying off their book of business and the buyer's warm GCI, warm gross commission, that's actually an elevation from the golden handoff. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned it, but we also, when I have helped people negotiate these, we negotiate to a number. The last one I did was 500,000. And what is intriguing about going to a number is the buyer then realizes, well, I'm going to have to pay 500,000, so I might as well work at getting this taken care of as quicker versus later. And by the way, in that one for 500,000, it paid off in 18 months. So it's conceivable to do it. But yeah, let's say that you know somebody in upstate New York that's 72, wanting to retire. What I would do, it's harder to find the seller, by the way, than it is the buyer. I tell people, like, you invest in real estate. I said, well, right now you can buy a book of business with no cash down and it's going to cash flow in day one. Like, if you could buy rentals that way, how many of those would you want to buy?
Infinity, to infinity and beyond.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it is an enviable situation. I will tell you, I would predict, if we can transform real estate practices into real estate businesses, as I'm working to do, in the future, people will have to pay some money up front.
Hey, Don, Verl is here for the sales class and he's ready to roll. So
okay, perfect.
Let's bring
Yeah,
Verl
hey.
on and let's go.
Okay, so I'll wrap up my part. Michael, if you, I'll put my phone number in the chat. If you want to reach out, I want to make sure I give Earl his time. So just do that and be happy to help in any way I can. Hey, but thank you. And Brent, thank you for having me.